Recent hacking attacks on social media accounts used by the top CEOs in the technology industry is forcing a change in how these companies are looking to protect their user base. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, for one, Twitter founder Jack Dorsey, and Google head Sundar Pichai, all targets of recent hacking attacks. The Wall Street Journal reporting that hackers could be seizing on old LinkedIn passwords that's stored on the so-called dark web, with recent reports that up to 200 million Yahoo user accounts have also been compromised. Joining us right now is Fox News correspondent and former intelligence operator Lea Gabrielle. Lea, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, this is a new way of life, right? I mean, making sure to get the bad guys online is a different strategy than what you would do in a traditional getting the bad guys scenario.
Completely. I mean, we really don't have any sort of a cyber police that's looking for criminals, and this is the new way that people commit crimes. It's not just, you know, the cyber battlefield that we're dealing with when we think about ISIS and how they're using cyber to recruit people, but we also have to protect our own personal identities on the internet because it's become so convenient. It's the way we make purchases, it's the way we communicate through our email accounts, it's the way we bank, and now we really have to find better ways to protect our security.
Yeah. Are we doing it? How do we do it?
Well, that's a good question. I've been looking into this, and you know, when I got my most recent iPhone, one of the things I did is I set up the thumbprint technology so that I can unlock my phone that way. That seems like a really pretty secure way to protect yourself, right?
But
except that when you think about it, a password is something that I can memorize. It's something that I can write down on a piece of paper and put in a secret location. My thumbprint is everywhere that I go. A hacker can essentially take the thumbprint right off the screen, the glass screen from my iPhone, take a picture of that, and then recreate that thumbprint. So I think that where we're really going when it comes to technologies, companies are looking into biometrics, things like iris scans, facial recognition. MasterCard is using a program now where when you want to make an online purchase, they send something to your phone. Then on your phone, you have to take a selfie, so it's using this facial recognition. There's things like heartbeat recognition, voice recognition. But where this is really going, I think, is that to protect yourself, first of all, there's really no way. If there's something to safeguard you, there's always a way to circumvent it. What you want to do is you want to make it as hard as possible for criminals to get into your accounts. So you want to be somebody who changes your passwords regularly, and potentially, I think the best future for this is the multiple ways of recognizing someone. So for example, a password and something involving your cell phone, you know, a password and one of these other technologies, or just multiple technologies like this, because hackers are getting smarter and smarter about how they access your information.
Yeah. And I think people are naturally going to be driven to like the iris scans and things like that, because right now I think they say the average person in this country has like 70 passwords.
Yes.
Written down, memorized,
and then they end up using them again.
But
and then you just show that those companies that have the forced password changes, it's like...
As Lea says, though, if they can copy my thumbprint, how far away are they going to be from being able to copy my
though, sounds like a much smaller percentage of the hacking population, because that's a very deliberate hack. That's not like an algorithm.
But what happens
phone,
is the more mainstream something becomes, the more susceptible it's going to be. The more it's going to make sense for hackers to come up with ways to overcome it. So if everyone's using their thumbprint on their iPhone, then hackers are going to use that type of technology more. So it's about not, you know, using things that are less mainstream, using multiple technologies. The passwords, though, I hear are not bad. As much of a pain as it is, and you're right, who can remember their password, especially if companies are making you change it all the time? But one of the things I read is, you know, if you are writing down a password and you hide it in some little location, you have a much less chance of somebody finding that password if it's unique and not used across multiple accounts than if something's been used on a prior account. Hackers can get into, you know, these LinkedIn passwords, etc., and then basically go, okay, she likes to use the word cat, so I'm going to start coming up with variations of cat. Or everyone likes to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please don't use that as your password.
That is the craziest thing. It's like the most popular password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Nobody will think that I use that, right? It's just so dumb.
That and password.
That's another popular password. So the Journal is also reporting that startups, like, for example, you got Tokyo-based Liquid Ink. They're rolling out fingerprint-based security systems, technology the military is already using to identify people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how, you know, prevalent or successful will the hackers be at copying the thumbprint?
So you think, okay, well, this is military technology, right? But by the time, my assessment, and from my experience in working in the intelligence industry in the military, is that once something becomes mainstream that was a military technology, it's practically obsolete. The military is moving on to bigger and better things. I mean, just to put it in perspective, the military just signed a contract to develop surveillance biometrics, essentially, where not just being able to recognize someone, but being able to recognize them essentially from surveillance from satellites, right? So the military's on to bigger and better things right now. So by the time you get something like fingerprint technology, it's sort of like what I was saying. Companies are coming out with voice recognition, hand geometry, although a lot of hands are similar, facial recognition, DNA, behavioral biometrics, what you act like when you're on your computer, how you do your searches, that kind of thing, palm vein recognition, and even heartbeat recognition. But when it comes to biometrics, once yours are essentially stolen, that's who you are. That's your identity. And so a lot of people who study this and who write about hacking say, that your biometrics are who you are, and it also makes cyber criminals able to target you individually as a person.
Really interesting stuff.